This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this evening session on MIAD 816, where we are going to do the past question and answers of previous examination from 2022 to 2024. So without wasting our time, this is a question from 2022, and they have 6 questions. Normally in examination, we are asked to answer 4 questions. So from this question, we have 6 questions. The first question that appears to us is we should explain the concept of natural rights. The concept of natural right, that's what we ask to explain. While the second question is to discuss the significance of human rights. So before the advent of human rights, there was natural rights. Before the advent of an organized political party or organized political system, that was what we call the natural right. The natural right is what God gave you, is what God gave every one of us. So the question 1 talks about the natural right, this question 2 talks about the human right. So you need to know the difference between the two, so that you will not try to mix them up in the examination. And now question number 3 talks about to what extent are human rights universal? That is, we are asked to talk about the universality of human rights. While the question 4 talks about we should list and explain the major components of human security. While the 5th one talks about explain the major element of national security. The last one talks about the UDHR. Now, we'll take them one after the other. Question number 1, which is explain the concept of natural rights. So now, the question 1 says explain the concept of natural rights. So can anyone tell me what he or she understand by what we call natural right before I try to explain it? What do you understand by natural rights? What do you understand by natural rights? Like in a simple word or in any way you can define it. What do you understand by natural right? Anybody? We've done it in our previous classes. This is just past question and answer. So if you've watched,
think those are the inherent rights of an individual: right to life, right to own property, right to all those normal natural rights that you are born with.
thank you very much. So we say the natural right. So we answer the question with what she said now. She said the natural are those that are inherent rights of human being. Listen, the right that are inherent, that you are born with it. Listen, before that, they are described as pre-political rights that no government creates. It's only God that creates it, or the nature. Listen, so for those that don't believe in God, so it's only God or the nature that creates it. The natural it is created by God or the nature. Listen, so it is not prescribed by the government. Listen. On the other hand, the human right is prescribed by the government, but the natural right is not prescribed by the government. Understand? They are inherent in human nature. They exist prior to the government we have. Understand now? So now we answer the question. Natural rights are derived from the older tradition of natural law. Son, they are derived from older tradition of natural law. And when we talk about older tradition of natural law, we make mention of philosophical doctrine. They are rooted in the nature of human being or the divine order. When we say the divine order, we mean by God. You get? So it's a right, or they are rights that are given to you by God or the divine, how do you call the divine being? Just put my camera here, so I'll pop this camera. Just bear with me. Just bear with me. I just want to be sure. I'm using my phone and my system, so I just want to be sure I'm doing the right thing. Now, so we will go by the definition given to us by Thomas Hobbes. In your course material, you will see what we call the Hobbesian conception, which is a Thomas Hobbes definition of the natural right. So, according to Thomas Hobbes, the natural rights are those rights individual will possess in the state of nature. According to Thomas Hobbes, the natural rights are those rights individual will possess in the state of nature. That is to say, the hypothetical condition of humanity without government. That is to say, the hypothetical condition of humanity without government, law, or organized political condition. So Thomas Hobbes is trying to let us know that when we are saying we are talking about natural right, we are making reference to the right that exists in the nature, even before the advent of law, the advent of government or political community. So in such state, every individual possesses the same natural rights. Every individual possesses the same natural rights. Listen. So according to Thomas Hobbes, natural right is merely a liberty, that is freedom, the liberty, and not a claimed right. We are not claiming it from the government. We are not claiming from an individual, or we are not claiming it for someone. That is why we say it is liberty. Unlike human right can be claimed, but the natural right, you are not claiming it from anyone. So since all persons, in all human beings, have the natural right in the state of nature, and since there is no law to regulate conflict, Thomas Hobbes now described the state of nature as what we know as war of all against all. I don't know whether you've heard this word, the war of all against all. Anybody to tell us the meaning of war of all against all? War of all against all. Because the lecturer was explaining it last time. If you attend the class. So when we say war of all against all, we are trying to make reference to a state in which there is solitary, poverty, nasty, and short. In the sense that we say there is freedom. There is freedom regarding this law, this natural rights. If there is freedom regarding this natural right, that means everybody, there's liberty. Liberty. So everybody is free to do whatever you want to do. Understand now? So that is what Thomas Hobbes refers as war of all against all. Because everybody have the same natural right. Nobody is above the other when it comes to the natural right. Understand? So to escape the war of all against all, a situation that is a bit barbaric and solitary in nature, to escape that condition, individuals have to surrender their natural right to a sovereign state. We have to surrender our right, our natural right, to a government through what we know as a social contract. You understand? To what we know as social, social contract. So in essence, before you think about having what we know as the natural human right, fundamental human right, before you think about having human right, we have something we call natural right. But because it comes to a stage that everybody has a freedom, so people do and undo. That is why we have to come with surrender the right to a sovereign state, a government, so that the government is going to cage every one of us, that is putting rules and regulation. You know, when you say you have right now, you have freedom, you have natural right. You can go and buy somebody tomorrow on the notion that you have your right. But because we've surrendered this right, this natural right to a government, then the government laid down the rules and regulation towards it. That's the Thomas Hobbes perception. Understand? Now, we are still on the natural right issue. John Locke on his own part explained natural rights. We have different philosophers. So I've mentioned Thomas Hobbes. Understand? So that is Hobbesian conception. Now, the John Locke conception, the belief of John Locke. So the belief of John Locke is natural rights. Understand? So to how do you call this man? John Locke. The natural rights are rights that most directly inspired by human rights. That is, human rights get its inspiration from natural rights. In essence, without the natural right, according to John Locke, without the natural right, we cannot have the human right. Understand? So, in Locke's state of nature, to the belief of John Locke, these rights are not arbitrary social constructs, but they are grouped, they are in the nature, in the natural law. They are already in the natural law. Understand? So when we talk about natural right, it's the right you see in the nature, as defined by the first person that answered my question here now. So that are the right that you see in the nature. But you need to know that we transition from natural right to human right. That's the transition. That's the transition. So in essence, you can say natural rights are derived, how do you call it? They are rights that are derived from the nature or by divine prescription. You understand? So the concept of the natural right constitute the philosophical bedrock or the foundation upon which the modern idea of human rights is built. And they are rights believed to be inherent in human nature. And they exist before independence, before law, before government. Understand? They are inherent rights. We get it as hereditary. We get it from being human being. And so inherent in human nature, they exist prior before independence, law, government, or government. So they are referred as pre-political rights that no government creates. They are pre-political rights. Before human beings think about anything political, this right exists. Before we think about that. So they are pre-political rights that no government creates. And no government can take them away. Understand? So I just mentioned the John Locke perception and then Thomas Hobbes perception. You might be seeing the Hobbesian conception, which is Thomas Hobbes belief, or you will be seeing the Lockean conception, which is the John Locke's belief, Lockean conception. So you might be seeing it. They can ask you to define it based on these two beliefs. Understand? So that is the question: human rights. Why the second question they asked us was they should define the how do you call it? The human right. We've talked about the natural right. The second question is talking about the human right. As I said, without the natural right, there won't be what we know as the human right. So the natural right, the human right got its inspiration from the natural right. So who can define human right for us? What is human right? What is human right? What is human right? Anybody to help us? What is human right? Anybody should bail us? What is human right? Please, I want us to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. So I think human rights are a set of declarations that were made by governments on a global scale in order to protect the lives and safety of every human globally.
Okay. You're on point. You're on point. Any other definition? I want to place my laptop here. Any other definition? Let me see for this. Any other definition of human rights?
Okay, I believe they are inalienable rights enjoyed or written in the Constitution.
Okay, they are right we enjoyed that is written in the Constitution. Okay. Okay, those two persons that give us their own definition, they are also right. Listen, so we are learning. So it should not be only me to be talking. I want us to be. I want it to be interactive. So I want to place my phone here. So human rights. Listen, they refer to the basic entitlement and freedom to which every human being is inherently entitled simply by virtue of human or humanity, irrespective of your nationality, your race, your sex, religion, language, or any other social distinct. So the right you get by virtue of being human being is the human right. Understand? The right you get by virtue of being human being is human right. Understand? So they are also the human right is also defined as right that has a justifiable claim. That has a justifiable claim. And you claim that one from who? From the government. That is where the first definition by Mr. Emmanuel walks in. Understand? So they are right. That is, the human right is a right, is defined as a right that has a justifiable claim on legal or moral ground. Do you understand? And based on the second definition given to us by, I don't know who's talking, but I don't know if it's Miss Fatima, so somebody talk here, but I don't know the name. So based on the second definition that the person gave, it's the human right is a universal moral right, the universality of right. Something which all men everywhere in the world need to have. Listen. So no one may be deprived without facing any legal means. So these are rights that it is claimable, you can claim it is justifiable, you can claim it, and you cannot be deprived it without affronting the justice. That is, without going to court. Everybody have the right, but you see some people are in prison. The right of the freedom of movement is being restrained. So the freedom of movement is restrained because they have an offense. So without a court of law, without taking it to justice, to court or the likes, you cannot claim this kind of right. Understand? So according to the United Nations Office of Human Rights Commission, according to the United Nations Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, they defined human right as the right inherent of all human beings. Understand? The right inherent of all human beings, whatever our nationality, place of residence, sex, national or ethnic, color, religion, or sex, or other status. which means that these are rights that is inherent by human being, irrespective of wherever you are, your religion, your culture, your color, language, irrespective of who you are, you have that right. Yes, sir. So the definition is a bit universality in nature, because somebody answered that question here. The second person that answered that question is universality in nature because it's applicable to everybody by virtue of being human being. Because we are human being, you get access to that right. Yes, sir. So from the definition we've been given on human rights and other rights, on human rights, from the definition we've been given, there are things we need to note, which are the characteristics of rights. And number one characteristic we need to know is the universality of rights. Number one characteristic is universality. And when we talk about universality of rights, we are making note that we are noting that human rights is applicable to all, everywhere, and at all time. That is universality of right. Understand? They are applicable to all, everywhere, and at all time. That is the characteristics of human rights. And the second characteristic of human rights is the inalienability of the right. When we say inalienability of right, it means that it cannot be waived or be transferred to another person. That is, they cannot take away that right from you. Although they can restrict it. Person with 5% like this, they restrict it, they take him to prison. They restrict the right of movement. There's freedom of movement, they restrict it. Understand now? So but they cannot be taken, it cannot be taken away from you, but it can sometimes be restricted under specific legal condition. Understand? Under specific legal condition. So what we are trying to say is that the second characteristic, the inalienability of the right, is that this right that we have, no one can take it away from us, and we cannot transfer it to our friend or our family or someone. Understand? But it can be restricted from us through legal means. Understand? For instance, liberty may be restricted upon criminal conviction if you have any criminal case. So that is the second characteristic. The third characteristic is indivisibility. Indivisibility. Which means that all the rights we are talking about, they are all important. If they deny one type of right, it can affect the other type of rights. The civil right, the political, the economic right, the social right, and the cultural right. Listen, they are all equal. They are all important. They are interrelated. Listen, if they deny someone from education, that is, if they deny someone to know right to education, for instance, now it can affect it can affect its political participation. You know, they are doing in some country that they will not allow people to go to school. The government will plan it that they will not allow them to go to school. And when the election comes now, they find a way to manipulate them because they don't know about it. They don't know that they have a right, political right, because they are not educated. They deprive them of education to punish, to find a way to manipulate them. So the indivisibility of rights is telling us that all human rights we are talking about, they are all equal. If you deprive someone from one, it can affect the other rights. Son, the fourth characteristic of human rights is a non-discrimination. Non-discrimination, that is, the human right is applicable to all without distinction of either your color, your religion, your race, or your social status. Is applicable to everyone. Understand? Why the fifth one is the interdependence of right. That's the fifth characteristic of human rights. The fifth characteristic is interdependence. That is, when you realization of one right often depend on the realization of the other. That is where the indivisibility comes. For instance, now for my note, I said the right to health, like right to health, cannot be fully achieved without giving you the right to food. Understand? So the right to education, the right to political participation cannot be fully achieved without the right to education. So they depend on all these rights we are talking, they depend on each other. They have correlation, they depend on each other. Understand? So this is about that one. So there is a question we asked here. There is a question that is asked here. They said, to what extent are human rights universal? To what extent human rights universal? Can anyone help us with that one? I want it to be interactive in nature. I want it to be interactive. So to what extent are human rights universal? Wait, before I talk about that question, let us talk about the similarity between the human rights and the natural rights. So the similarity between the two, please. Listen. So similarity between the natural right and the human right. Number one similarity is that both human right and natural right are universal. They are seen as universal because they're applicable to all human beings, regardless of their nationality, their culture, their religion, or political affiliation. Understand? That's number one similarity. The number two similarity is that both human rights and the natural rights, they are inherent in human nature. They are not granted by the government, but they exist before political activities. Listen, the third one is that both human rights and the natural rights, understand, they serve as moral standard against which the law and the government can be evaluated. That is, they cannot be violated. And if violated, you can claim it. Understand? And both are entitled to human being. Understand now? So we say both of them historically, they emphasize core entitlement. Understand? So that is just because when we are talking about human rights and the natural right, we come on something. You will try to mix it. We mix them up like they look same. Understand? But the differences between the two. What is the difference between both the natural rights and the human rights? Yes, son. The difference between the natural rights and the human rights. Number one. The number one difference between the natural right and the human right. Let's look at the sources and the foundation of both. Understand? The sources. Understand? So the natural right source, the source of natural right, or the foundation of the natural right, understand, is grounded in nature, reasons, and the divine endowments. Understand? It's grounded in the nature, the reason, and the divine endowment that is from God. Understand? But human right, on his other hand, philosophically, it is rooted in natural right. You understand? It is rooted in natural right. But derive the modern force, currently the contemporary force of more human rights, understand, is from a consensus agreement or legal codification. That is why we have the UDHR of 1948. The inspiration is from the natural rights. The inspiration of natural right is from the nature, divine endowment. But the other hand, human right inspiration is from natural rights through a consensus of legal, through an international consensus and legal codification. You understand? That is, this one was, the human right is put down in legal framework. You understand? That is why we have the UDHR of 1940, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's number one differences. Number two differences between these two. Number two differences between these two. The natural rights are traditionally conceived. Understand? They are traditionally conceived. Understand? The natural rights are traditionally conceived. But on the other hand, the human rights, understand, especially in this contemporary world we have, the human rights, they achieve their legally recognition through international treaties. What we are trying to say here is that when we are talking about a natural right, it's just a right that exists in the nature by virtue of being human being in the nature. But the human rights come as recognition, as a legal recognition through international treaty. Listen, that this group of people comes in together to put down this law into book. Listen. So without people coming on together to write this law into book, this right will not exist. The human rights. Listen. So, but we need to know that they got their own inspiration from the natural rights. But the natural right has to be in a book. We need to codify it. We need to legally codify it so that everybody can respect it internationally. Listen. That's the legal status. Another differences between these two is that the natural rights lack formal enforcement mechanism. They lack formal enforcement mechanism. Understand? They lack formal, this one is just in the nature. So they lack enforcement mechanism because it's inherent in the nature, through the nature. But on the other hand, the human rights, they are backed up by the international and the regional institutional framework. Listen, the human rights is backed up by national and international institutions and regional institutions. But the natural rights lack formal enforcement mechanism. Understand? Another difference between these two. The natural rights were historically applied primarily to property owning adult male within the cultural context, which means that the natural right is what previously, traditionally, it was only applicable to adult male that own property. Understand? But the human right in this contemporary world we are talking about is explicitly universal, irrespective of who you are, whether you are adult, you are children, they are your children, adult, refugees, even if you don't have states, if you don't have country, it's applicable to you. Understand? So what we need to understand with the differences of these two is that is she talking with me? Okay, not me. So The difference between why we are talking about the difference between the natural right and the human right, we need to understand that human rights are the intellectual descendants of natural rights. That is, without natural right, we cannot have human right, because human right got its inspiration from natural right. But there are differences when it comes to the sources, the legal scope, the institutional framework. They have differences. So that is why we should not mix them up together. Listen. Okay, can I proceed, please? Let me know if I can proceed. If you want me to repeat something, let me just know also. Can I proceed?
Sorry, I joined late. Oh,
You will see the
hello?
record. Yeah. You will see
Okay, no problem. No, I just want to appreciate and thank you.
okay.
At least it's no longer I checked my own results, so everything is cleared. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Good. No, thank you. So we'll proceed. We'll proceed now.
But Auntie, please, I don't know how come I'm not part of the group again. No, I was trying to delete that group you said you were going to take us
No,
out of, and then I can't find myself again.
I added you back. I saw you.
Okay, thank you.
I added you back. I knew that.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. Now, so proceed. I'll proceed, please. This question. I want to show this question. The question says, what's the question? The question. I think you have the past question with you. The one we are treating now. The question says, discuss the significance of human rights. Discuss the significance of human rights. Discuss the significance of human rights in relation to security, or discuss it. The question was asked in 2002, both examination, 2003 and 2004. The significance of human rights. So it might be shown as important of human rights or significant of human rights. So they are still trying to tell us the same thing. Listen, what is important of human rights to us? What is important of human rights? Anyone to answer that one for us? Important of human rights. What is important of human rights? The significance of human rights. Important of human rights, significance of human rights. Anybody? Anybody, please. Just one. Significant or important of human rights.
Sorry, can we say right to life?
The important, what is important of human rights? How important is it?
It is important. Okay. Okay, let me say like protection.
Mm-hmm. You can explain. We are listening. Let me answer this. So the significance of human rights. Yes. So in essence, when we look at human rights, they are not just written in books. Listen, for us to just admire. They are something put down for practical application. Understand? Looking at the individual welfares of people, the social order, the national stability and security, or the international peace. Because if we don't have these human rights, we will be living in a state of lawlessness, anarchy. So when we live in a state of lawlessness, that means everybody can do and undo. The mighty can override the how they call those that are not mighty, and there can be problem. Everybody will do and undo. Understand? So when you look at now the importance of human rights, you can look at it from the national perspective, or the international perspective, or the individual perspective. Understand? So we can say they protect individuals from the abuse of power. They promote democratic governance. That is where we have everybody can participate in politics. Understand? They underpin sustainable development. That's the national perspective. Understand? And they also contribute to the critical pillar for both the national and the international security. Understand? So there is one popular saying by Kofi Annan. We all know Kofi Annan, right? Of Ghana. Understand? So Kofi Annan, the popular saying is that there cannot be no security. We cannot have security without development. Understand? But we can also not have development without security. Both development and security cannot exist without the respect for human rights. Understand? Development cannot exist in a country without security. Security also cannot exist without development. But both the two, development and security, cannot exist without the respect for human rights. Understand? So in essence, when we are talking about the significance of human rights, number one aspect we need to look at is the universal moral standard aspect. The universal moral standard. Significant aspect. That is, the human rights provide a universal moral yardstick against which any society or government can be judged. That is, we've put down a framework, we've put down a roadmap. Understand? We've put down a framework, a roadmap that anybody can be judged upon. If somebody violates your right, there is a way there are procedures to go about it. Listen, if they violate your right in Nigeria or they violate it in UK or any country, understand, in any part of the world, it can be condemned using the same method, the same standard. Do you understand? Because human rights is universal. That's number one. The human right is universal. So it provides a universal moral yardstick against which any society or government can be judged. That's number one. That's about the national or the government part, the national part or the societal part. But on the individual part, understand, at the individual level, the significance of human rights based on the individual dignity and freedom. That is, human rights protect the inherent dignity of human rights, the dignity of human being. They protect human beings from tyranny, arbitrary arrest, torture, slavery, and discrimination. Listen, we have right to life, right to free trial, right, freedom from from torture. This one, they directly protect individual. Listen, they directly protect individual. But when you want to look at the right to, when you look at the economic, the social, and the cultural right, when you look at the other part, that is the right to education, healthcare, adequate food, when you look at that part also, listen, they enable individual to perform a duty as human being, to live with dignity. Listen, so the first one I mentioned is about it help the government. It put a yardstick for how things should be done in the society. But the second one is about you, human being, in the individual rather. The first one is about the government. The second one is about the individual perspective. Listen. Number 3 is about the significance of human rights on democratic governance. Understand? Without human rights, it will be difficult to achieve democracy. It will be difficult to achieve democracy. Without human rights, it will be difficult to achieve democracy. Because today, when we talk about free and fair election, separation of power, where we have the judiciary, the executive, the arms. So when you talk about this, without having human rights, it's going to be difficult. Understand? So it is democracy is being achieved through the existence of human rights. Understand? Without an application of human rights, it's going to be difficult for us to achieve the concept of democracy. Because human rights and democratic governance work interchangeably. They deeply work together. Understand? So if you want good governance, in the society that we want good governance, we need to preach for human rights to be respected, not the one that police will harass people anyhow and the government are not talking, not the one that election is being manipulated and the government is not talking, not the one that the minority doesn't have a say or the opposition doesn't have a say. You understand? So human rights is significant enough for democratic governance. Understand? So another one we need to look at is the significance when it comes to the international relation. Because we mentioned that it is universality, then we have to look at the aspect whereby it is important to the human right is important to the international system. Understand? Because each countries in the world, they are expected to account for their human rights record in international documents. That's why we call it the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Listen, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the human right conditionality is being adopted because it is universal. It is being accepted by all countries. You understand? So it has to be incorporated in all governmental activity in the world. All the world, we have to incorporate in our development. I said, because if the human right is removed from our development, where is the right? Where is the development? Because we are working for the government in each country. They are working for the betterment of their people. And if the people in the country doesn't have the rights, where is the development? So each government account for it. They have to. It's a responsibility internationally. It's a responsibility of each government to account for these rights. So in essence, if you want to just mention about the significance of this right, the importance of this right, you can just talk about it in the national aspect, the security aspect, the individual aspect, and the international aspect. How significant, how important is to this aspect I've mentioned. So in essence, human rights cannot be overemphasized, cannot be overlooked nationally, regionally, individually, and internationally. Understand? So that is about that. In case anybody has any contribution to add to it, you can let me know before I proceed, please. If you have any contribution to add to it, you can let me know. There is one question they mentioned that to what extent are human rights universal? To what extent are human rights universal? To what extent are human rights universal? To what extent are they universal? Can anyone reply that one for us based on your understanding? To what extent are human rights universal? To what extent are human rights universal? Anybody to help us with that? Let's be talking, please. Let's talk together.
I believe is accepted by all and sundry, everybody. That's just one I have.
Accepted by all, irrespective of your nationality, your culture, religion, political system, or political affiliation. So that's the point. That is, the question is, to what extent are human rights universal? So they are trying to let us they are letting us they want us to explain how universal is the right. So the universality of human rights all that the rights we are talking about belong to all human beings everywhere at all time, irrespective of your nationality, your culture, your religion, or political system. Yes, and that is why we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. Because the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 served as a foundational document of the international human rights regime. Understand? Now, we want to look at the case of the universality of human rights, the case of universality of human rights. Based on the legal grant, based on the legal consensus, because when you say it is universal, that means it has been legally imposed on all the nations in the world, all the states in the world. It has been legally imposed on all the states in the world. So the regional human rights system is set up. In Africa, we have our own that is set up to maintain the rights of people. You see, ECOWAS has its own board that look into any human rights cases. So as the European Union Convention of Human Rights also, they have their own. The American Convention of Human Rights, they have their own. Understand now? So if the African charters on human rights and people's rights, the African charters on human rights and people's rights, understand? So which means that regionally and internationally, it is legally accepted and monitored by all countries. That is on the legal aspect. Listen, backed up by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The EU, they have the European Union, European Convention on Human Rights. On the American side, they have the American Convention on Human Rights. In Africa, we have the Africa Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. In Asia, they have their own. Do you understand? So, if all the nations in the world set up this charter or convention to protect their rights, that means it is legally accepted by all nations in the world, backed up by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Listen, that is on the legal ground. Listen, on the historical ground now. Listen, on the historical ground, long before we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, listen, long before we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as we say that the Universal Declaration of the human rights originated is strength from the natural right, right? The African people, they have their rights. The Islamic concept, the Islamic people also, they have, the Muslims, they have it. Understand? In the, in the Christianity books, they have it also. So historically, it is accepted by tradition, by cultural tradition of the universe. The Hindus, the Muslim, the Christian, the Africans, understand? They all recognize the need to protect human life and dignity. So this convergence of people believing the act of protecting the right and dignity of human beings suggests that even before the advent of the UDHR, before the advent of the Western education, understand, shared human value transcends around all border. And the shared human value is about protecting the dignity of human being and the life of human being. That is, before they bring up colonization or they bring Western education, we also have our own way of thinking. We also have our own way of thinking. We also have our own way of protecting ourselves. I don't know of other culture, but in Yoruba, in the Yoruba culture, it is believed that if you kill, they take you to the Oba, to the king, and the king will ask them to go and kill you. Which means that even before they bring this their own law, we also have our own way, and it has transcended across cultural boundaries. The way we are doing it in Africa, the same way they are doing it in India, the same way they are doing in other parts of the world also. It is enshrined in Islamic book, is enshrined in Christianity book. So historically, it is accepted by the different cultural traditions in the world. Understand? So another argument we can use when it comes to the universality of human rights is of the belief that when we talk about the universality got its inspiration from the natural rights. Understand? Since human rights are grounded on the nature of being human being, because you are a human being, that is why you are human rights. Understand? Automatically, it is universal. So it must be applied to all human beings, irrespective of who you are. Understand? So that is why one of the arguments of John Locke say that all rational beings, understand, all of us, we possess natural life to life, liberty, and property by virtue of what? By virtue of humanity, by virtue of being human being. So far as by virtue of being human being, philosophically, this right is applicable to all of us. No one is exempted. That is, before the UDHR comes in, before we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we have the natural right. And the natural right, the human right got its inspiration from the natural right. So it's applicable to all of us, irrespective of who we are. Understand? So that is why we say it is universal in nature. Understand? So in case anybody has any contribution to this, you can ask your contribution, please. If you have contribution to this, you can ask, please. You can add it to it, please. We are learning. We are learning. Any contribution, please? Any contribution? Hello? Is anybody here?
We
Hello?
are here.
Thank you very much. Okay. So can we proceed, please? Can we proceed? Can we proceed? Can we
Yes,
proceed? Now, challenges to universality of human rights. We know we say that human rights is applicable to everybody, irrespective of who you are, but it has some challenges. It has some challenges. One of the challenges is cultural diversification. One of the challenges is culture. You see, there are some. It is believed that the UDHR we are talking currently, with the UDA Universal Declaration of Human Rights we are talking. Understand? It is too much westernized. It does not follow the culture of all the people in the world. That is follow the Western culture. Understand? It followed the Western culture. In Asia, in Asia, understand, it has been debated that the human right we are talking, the universality of human right, it does not follow their own culture. Even in Islamic culture, in Islamic how do you call it, religion, understand, they've questioned the UGHR on several occasions. Understand that? So the culture of people has not, the African, like, the culture of people has not been taken into consideration while drafting the UGHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, especially the universality part of the rights. Understand now? So because it was drafted with the belief, with the mindset of the Westerners. Understand? It is drafted with the mindset of the Westerners. So look at the African culture, for instance. The African culture focuses on collective rights, not individual rights. African culture focuses on collective rights, not individual rights. But the universality of human rights focuses on individual perspective. Yes, sir. So the universality of human rights focuses on individual perspective. But the African rights, our culture, we focus on communal living or collective rights of people. We are not looking at the individual perspective of. You understand? So for the fact that it was drafted based on the Western ideology, not looking at the traditional belief of people or the tradition or the cultural belief of people. Understand? It has brought the universality of human rights into question. My phone is low. My phone battery is low. So it has brought the universality. I want to charge my phone. So it has brought the universality of human rights into question. Understand? So if you look at the material I share with you regarding this past question and answer, if you look at the material I share with you, we have given an examples of some some prominent people, both in Asia, in Malaysia, and so now. They've argued that this universality of human rights is not compatible with the Asian culture or the value of Asian. Likewise, the African also have argued that it's not compatible with our own way of life. So on the cultural grounds, it is not applicable to us. It's not applicable to us on the cultural grounds. Understand? Aside from that one, political sovereignty and non-interference is also a challenge to this universality. Understand? Which means that some states, they invoke sovereignty to resist international human rights. You will see that a government will violate a right, and yet it will stand on the ground of sovereignty that they cannot be questioned. You know, sovereignty say that they cannot be attacked or questioned. Nobody can interfere in their political activities. You understand? So you will see some countries violating human rights, and they will stay under the aspect of sovereignty and non-interference. That no country can interfere in their political activities. Understand? So far as sovereignty, look at OAU, Organization of African Union. The reason why OAU collapsed is because of the non-interference principles. That is, you cannot interfere in another country problems. If look at what happened in Rwanda. Look at what happened in Rwanda. What happened in Rwanda is as a result of non-interference. The right of people was violated in 1994 in Rwanda. Because the right of people were violated, because of the OAU the principle of non-interference of OAU, believing that you cannot interfere in political activities or how do you call it, problem of another country or issues in another country. some rights have been violated. Listen, like we have North Korea, Kim Jong-un. We all know that in North Korea, people they don't have freedom. They don't have their own personal right. The right is being dictated by the leader in North Korea. Do you understand? So, and this is because of the political sovereignty and non-interference. Understand? So the international community cannot interfere in such matters. That is also a challenge of universality of human rights. Some country does not respect it. They believe that, okay, they have sovereignty. They don't respect it. Understand? And another challenge of universality of human rights is the issue of who owns the rights. Is it the government or the individual? Who owns the rights? Understand? Is it the government that owns the right or the government that owns the right? Understand? So sometimes for us to accept the universality of human rights, understand, we need to look at who owns all these rights. Are we acquiring that right when they give it to us? Or we are acquiring the right when we are mature? Understand? Because some people, so for instance now, for abortion, there's a debate about abortion. In some place, it is unlawful to abort, while in some place, it is normal to abort. Understand? So who owns the right? In some place, you can criticize the government freely, but in some place, you cannot criticize the government freely. You understand? So in essence, the debate between who owns the right between the government and the citizens is also a challenge to the universality of human rights. Can we proceed? You will see others in the note I shared with you. Can we proceed, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. If you have question, we can go. If you want me to go back, we go back again. So they asked us a question in one of the first questions. The question is identify and discuss the three major contexts for understanding the concept of security. Identify and discuss the three major concepts. Identify and discuss the three major concepts. Context. The three major contexts for understanding the concept of security. How can we understand security? How can we understand security? But on three dimensions. How can we understand security on three dimensions? Understand? So how can we understand security based on three major contexts? The number one context is about the national security. The number one context is about national security, while the second context is about human security. The second one is the human security perspective. The first one is the national security perspective, while the third one is a group or identity security perspective, which is a collective security perspective. Understand? So they are now asking us to. They say we should identify. We've identified it, and they are not asking us to discuss it. Understand? They are asking us to discuss it, how we can understand security based on these three perspectives. The first perspective, which is the national security, and whenever we talk about the national security, we make reference of the state or the country. So anytime we hear about country or state or national security, we still mean the same thing. Understand now? So which means that whenever we are trying to understand security, we make reference to the country, which is the state. Understand? And the state is associated to national security. Whenever we talk about Nigerian security, we know we are talking about the state in general. Understand? We are talking about all the states in Nigeria, all the country itself. Understand? So the goals and the efforts toward ensuring survival of the state, particularly by protecting our sovereignty from both internal and external attacks. That is where we are talking about the security. How a state is able to maintain its sovereignty. How are we preserving our sovereignty from territorial integrity and both internal and external attacks? Looking at the state approach or the state perspective, understand? Looking at the state perspective, we are trying to make a focus on security as the military aspect. We are looking at security as a military aspect. Understand? That is the ability of the military to defend the territory against external aggression and to balance the power of potential adversary. So whenever we are talking about, do you know they talk about Tinubu? There was a time that was, I think it's this year or last year, late last year, that they said they want to attack Tinubu, the coup d'etat in Nigeria. So who comes in to defend the country? The military. So whenever we make reference as security as national security or the state security, we are trying to look at the effort of the military, the ability of the military to defend the territory against both internal and external attack. Understand? So the national security in essence is the safety from danger and from external attack or infiltration. Understand? So traditionally, anytime we talk about the national security, defining security based on the national aspect or the state aspect, we are trying to involve military defense of territory integrity, deterrence, deterrence of foreign aggression, intelligence gathering, maintenance of strategic alliances. This is about the security, understanding security on the aspect of the state. So if we accumulate the military aspect, the deterrence aspect, alliances with other powerful countries, and also intelligence gathering, if we match up all these things, they form the idea of security when it comes to the state or the national security. Just bear with me, please. I want to drink water. I'm sorry. Now, on the other aspect, when you want to look at this, we should look at security on the other aspect. The first aspect is about the state. The second aspect is human security, the individual. Listen, the individual security. And when you look at the individual security, the human security recognizes that individuals face a wide range of threats. We human beings, we face problems that are not military in nature. And what are the problems we face? Poverty, hunger, disease, environmental degradation, domestic violence, and political repression. So, how is the state able to protect this part we've mentioned? Understand? So, for human security to exist, we have 7 dimensions of security that need to exist, which is economic, food, health, environment, personal, community, and political security. In essence, I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to explain. That is, we are asked to explain security on 3 dimensions. We've talked about the state, and we say when we talk about the state, we are making reference to the military aspect, the alliances country forms to protect the territory from both internal and external attack or infiltration. But on the human aspects, human beings also face insecurity that are not military in nature. And the insecurity human beings face that are not military in nature are poverty, hunger, diseases, environmental degradation, domestic violence, and political repression. And these are human insecurity. For us to solve human insecurity, there are 7 things that have to be put in place. And these 7 things are economic security, food security, health security, environmental, personal, community, and political security. These things that I mentioned, these 7 things that I mentioned, they are necessary for a person to live with dignity without fear. A person that does not have food security, that is always hungry, is going to be an angry man. An hungry man is an angry man. So in essence, this approach of understanding security based on individuals, understand? Instead of us to ask whether there is security in the country, we need to ask ourselves, can individual human being live free from fear and want? Can we freely live from fear and want? If somebody lost job, and if you just lost your job, are you saved to get something to eat? Are you saved to get something to eat? Is the government as the government provides something that is going to cater for your food and your living expenses? Understand? So in essence, human security on the other aspect is not about the military aspect. It's about how human beings are going to live freely without fear in the society. That is the second aspect of understanding security. The first one is on the state and the national part. The second one is on the individual. While the third one is a collective security aspect, or the group security aspect, or the identity security aspect. Understand? So the collective security aspect. Understand? Anybody to explain collective security? Anybody to tell us the meaning of collective security, please? Collective security. Anybody?
I think collective security refers to the, would I say, coming together of states to look out for one another, to, would I say, create laws and put enforcement in place to be able to protect themselves against any attack. An example is the pact they have in ECOWAS, where an attack on one ECOWAS state is an attack on all. That means when you attack one, the other states have the liberty to respond to such an attack.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the collective security aspect talks about the responsibility to protect each other. The responsibility to protect each other. Son, we are protecting each other. We are protecting each other based on our state. You're protecting the ethnic groups, the nations, the religion community, and other formations whose are in the society. Understand? So an attack on one is an attack on all, as he mentioned. So this conception of attack on one is an attack on all. Listen, it is being recognized by many parts of the world. Listen. So the beginning of war or threat, it is not usually by interstate. You will not see two countries bombarding each other just like that. Listen, it usually comes from inter-ethnic conflict, genocide, communal violence, before it boom to be interstate conflict. Understand? So, how to protect each other collectively, our group, our identity, and the likes. So how to protect it? So an attack on one is an attack on all. Is a perfect statement to explain the collective aspect of security. That is how we can explain security. Listen. So in most cases, when a tribe, when they call an ethnic group, a nation, or a religious community, or other formation in the world, when they are being attacked or when they are being threatened, listen. So it is a responsibility of others to respond, to intervene, to find a solution. Listen, that is why we have the doctrine of responsibility to protect, the R2P, the responsibility to protect doctrine. Listen, which it is internationally recognized to protect individual collectively from mass atrocity. Although we know that even though it exists, that exists in the books that they need to protect some people, we know that in some part of the Middle East they are not being protected, like Gaza in Palestine and in other part of the Middle East, they are not being protected just like that. They are trying their best, but they are not being, I don't know, they are not putting in place what is in the book in those parts of the world. Understand? So this is about that one. You can see the remaining way of, or the remaining aspect to define security or to explain security also in the book. In the book I share with you, I mentioned 5, so I just explained only 3. You can see the remaining in the book I explained to you and understand better. We are going to look at one last question in the past question, and we are going to call it a day for today, please. The last question is critically discuss the concept of national security. So I just want everybody to just talk. What do you understand by national security? National security. National security. What do you understand by national security? Please, national security. National and security. What do you understand by national security? National security. This is the last question. The question says we should discuss the concept of national security. We should discuss the concept of national security.
National security is protection. Is a nation protecting itself against external forces.
Okay, protecting ourselves from external forces. Okay, that's one part. Another definition. Another definition. Anybody?
National security, we can say it's the protection against military and non-military threats,
Okay.
like terrorism and all these economic instability.
Okay, good. Another person to give us national security.
It's also an effort towards ensuring survival of the state, like protecting the state, ensuring that it's safe from external threats.
Thank you very much. So we are all on point. National security, in essence, is the strategic way of protecting the state and its citizen. We are protecting the state and its citizen from both internal and external attack. Listen, we are protecting the state from both internal and external attack. Listen, so it focuses on the protection of people living in the state, people living in the country, and the country itself. Listen, so in essence, national security is the preservation of the norms, the rules, institutions, and value of society, including protection from military and non-military threat, as somebody mentioned here. Because sometimes the threat can be non-military. Listen, like hunger. Hunger is non-military. Listen, so because it's silly, because if we as human being we have the problem, we have the non-military threat, it can affect the nations at large. Listen, so in essence, national security is also the ability to preserve the nation's physical integrity and territory. The ability to preserve a nation's physical integrity and territory, to maintain its economic relation with the rest of the world on reasonable terms, to preserve its nature, its institutions, and governance from disruption from outside and the control of border. In essence, whenever we are trying to talk about the national security, we are trying to lay foundation on, foundation on how the country or the state is going to be secure. How it's going to be secure. And it is not about the state alone. Those elements in the state, that is the citizens, the institutions in the state, the value in our society, the norms in our society, how all of them, they are going to be secured. That's the national security. Understand? So, then I ask the question is, the major element of national security. The major element of national security, number one major element of national security is military security. Listen, that is at the bedrock of national security. We talk about military. Whenever we talk about national security in a country or state security in a country, we may mention of the military. And when we talk about military, we talk about the army, the navy, the air force. Understand? So, the national security, in essence, we are trying to make reference to the military security. That's number one element. And the military security, we talked about the ability, the strength, the capability of the military to protect the sovereignty of the country. That's number one. Number two element is the political security. The political security. The political security is non-military in nature. Understand? The political security is non-military in nature because the political security is concerned with the stability, the stability of the political system in the country. Understand? It is dealing with the political system. That is where we are talking about how the institutions of government are being protected, the constitutions in the country, how are they being put in place, the mechanism of succession are being put in place, and the political participation and civil liberty of people, how is being respected. So a country that is experiencing coup d'etat, that is when the military take power from them, a country that is experiencing coup d'etat, they are having political insecurity. Especially what we are seeing in in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. So most of them, they are having political insecurity because they are not practicing democratic system of government. And so they are practicing a military system of government. That is why we are saying that they have political insecurity. The third element of national security. The third element of national security is the economic aspect, economic security. Understand? That is, are people in the country self-sufficient enough? Are they eating enough economically? What is the employment rate? What is the welfare of the people? Son, I posted something on my status. They says that the more than less than 5% of Nigerians are getting 200,000 naira per month, which means that some people in Nigeria still get 30,000 per month as salary. Listen, some people in Nigeria still get 30,000 naira per salary. That is 1 hour work in UK. You understand? Yeah, I'm having class. So you understand? So the economic security, understand, it concerns the prosperity and the self-sufficiency of the national economy. Understand? The ability to provide employment, the income, and the welfare of citizens. Understand? So a country that is economically dependent, understand? A country that is economically dependent, there is going to be high employment rate. But if economically the country is not dependent, is independent. I'm sorry. A country that is economically dependent in another economy, there is going to be high unemployment. Understand? But when a country is economically independent, there is going to be high employment. You see Nigerian case. Understand? You are in Nigeria, you understand better. I might not be able to explain Nigerian case better than you people living in Nigeria, but you understand better that even though you are working, you are getting salary, sometimes your salary before the end of the month, the salary has finished. You understand? Because the cost of living is rising. The cost of living, the salary is not able to cater for the cost of living. Understand? And taking Nigeria as a case study, you will see some businesses closing up in Nigeria, moving abroad because economically it is not advisable for some investors. Although we have investors in Nigeria, but some investors are leaving also. Yes, sir. So the economic security, that's number 3. The third one is the environment security. The environment security, you see in some area, there is deforestation in some area. Some people still use charcoal. They still believe in using charcoal to cook, which is causing deforestation. Understand? So that which is it's part of the what is it called, the climate change issues. It's been discussed as one of the climate change issues. You understand now? So environmental security address the environmental threat, what we are causing to the environment, like the deforestation, the pollution, flooding, what we are causing to the society. There are some areas you pass in some part of Lagos, it is the pollution, the air pollution is too high. Because I've at least if I've not been in any part of Nigeria, Lagos, I've been in Lagos several times, and the pollution is very high from motors, from food seller around the road and the likes. Understand? So environmental security is also an element. It's number 4 element of national security. Number 5 element of security, national security, is health security. Health security. Do you know that in Nigeria, there are some areas they don't have functional healthcare system in Nigeria, some part of Nigeria. There are some village, they have to travel to another town before they can have access to functional health system. Even some hospitals in Nigeria, they want to do operation, there is no light. They will need to run torchlight. We've seen it online. They need to run torchlight before they can attend to patients. And that is a problem to health security. So in essence, the health security involves gathering minimum protection from diseases and ensuring adequate health care for the population. Are people having adequate health care in Nigeria? Listen, people having adequate health care in Nigeria. UK has its own problem also, but when it comes to healthcare, UK has its own problem. If you ask anybody in UK, if they have problem that is, they will tell them to go and take paracetamol, but they will attend to you. By this time, it is 8 p.m. If I call that I'm having stomach ache, they will attend to me. Even if they don't want to attend to me, if I say I want to die, they will bring ambulance in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I will see ambulance in front of my house. It has happened to my wife. Now she they faint. She like fainting. I said that she they faint anytime. So anytime she faint like this, I will call ambulance and they will come. So in essence, what I'm trying to infer is that they have they have functional healthcare system. They have functional healthcare system. So if a country healthcare system is not functional, it may be existing but not functional. Understand? It may be existing but not functional. If it's functional, things can be moving forward in the country. In some part of Osun State, in some part, I'm from Osun State, in some part of Osun State, people that want to give birth, they go to they usually go to all these mama, all these old women, all these traditional women to go and give birth. They don't go to hospital because they believe that hospital is expensive for them. Some people simply go to all these old women, traditional women, to give birth there. And I believe it's not only in Osun State; it's happening in almost all part of Nigeria, where people cannot afford to go to hospital. Instead of them to go to hospital, they will prefer to do whatever they want to do at home. Understand? And the last element of national security is cyber security. And cyber security is something that is new now, where you see hackers. We are in digital age. Understand? Where we see hackers like our school like this, INEC cyber, INEC server. You see some people that they want to hack it. Even ABU server, where they then put result every day. If some people can just say they want to hack it, which is a threat. You understand? So in essence, we are in digital world. Understand? And cyber security is very important because all our information is online. All our information is online. Today, if they have to hack Snapchat, Facebook, WhatsApp, there are some information of you that you will not want anybody to know in this art office. But if they hack all this system, all this information will be widely open. So what did the government do? They do all possible best to protect the digital aspect of the country. You can understand? Because there have been several occasions whereby there have been electronic attacks on the military, on the government. You understand? So even there is an allegation that the Russian president or the Russian community, they interfere on the 2026 or 2016 US election. Understand that? So one of the problems Nigeria is having currently, that you see that Nigerians, they are afraid of going to digitalize the INEC aspect, is that they believe that Nigeria is not mature for this electronic transmission of results. We are not mature digitally. Because if we have to go for electronic transmission of the results, INEC result, anybody can hack the system. And it's going to be a problem on Nigerian. So in essence, cybersecurity is also an element that all nations in the world, they put it in their national security because it is believed that there are some sensitive information about the country that should not be disclosed outside. Understand? And once you are attacked by hackers, all your information are going to be outside. Understand? They've done it before with WAEC. JAMB. JAM server was attacked before. Even WAEC sometimes you will see WAEC, they have exam tomorrow. The question has already been outside. Listen, so it happened. So these are the elements of national security. That's military, economic, political, environmental, health security, cyber security. So we are going to call it a day for today, and we are going to meet tomorrow from me at 8:06, same time tomorrow from me at 8:06. Any contribution from me, question, observation, suggestion? Any question, observation, suggestion, advice, question? If you don't have a question, observation, suggestion, I think we are going to meet tomorrow for MIAD 806. MIAD 806 tomorrow, same time, 6:30 to
6:30 to 8:30.
tomorrow for MIAD 806. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attendance and your comments, and thank you for listening to me. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Abdul.
Thank
God
you so
bless
much.
you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great evening too.
So